A year ago, I started this channel, and I had no idea if anyone would actually watch my videos. And every single week, I put out a video, and I still ask myself, will anyone care? And I think after a year, I can easily say yes. And that's thanks to all of you. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. Panels in Progress, a channel about comics and manga and learning through the process. And today's episode is all about consistency. But before I get into the podcast chat today, I just have to stop and say thank you. I appreciate you for clicking on these videos, watching my videos, leaving comments. I can't tell you how much it means to me for you guys to leave comments and to tell me what your stories are about, to tell me what you're struggling with, to tell me, to keep going. I appreciate it so much, and it just makes me remember how special this comic creating community is, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So, first and foremost, thank you. Now, into the topic of the video, consistency. The reason I picked this topic to go alongside with the 1 year celebration of the channel is because, much like creating a YouTube channel, comics take consistency. It takes a very long time to make a comic, especially if you are not a professional. Even if you're a professional, sometimes just the process of making a comic, it's a lot of hours that we put into just bringing an idea to life. And just like showing up to the channel every single week, showing up to make your comic every day, every other day, every week, whatever your schedule might allow, is really important. Because on this journey of making comics, you're not always going to feel motivated. You're not going to like every single part of making a comic. I love comics. I love reading them. I love reading manga. I love making them. But there are parts within the comic making process that if I had hair, I would definitely be pulling it out. But that's okay, because regardless, every single day I show up. I have a full-time job. Sometimes I have to go into the office. Sometimes I get to work from home. But every single day I try to carve out between 1 to 2 hours of just working on my comic. That's the singular thing I look forward to every single day after a hard day of work, is sitting down and working on my comic. And some days I don't feel like it. Some days I'm not inspired. Some days I'm just going through the motions. And some days I feel like I'm not making progress at all. But every day I intend to show up, and I schedule out this time where everyone knows that this is Chris's time to make comics. And I guess before I even get into the consistency of making a comic, I should probably start with, in the beginning, I didn't necessarily feel ready to start making comics. I procrastinated a lot. I said I wanted to make a comic, but I wasn't actually making them. I loved everything about the idea of making a comic. I loved the idea of telling a story, but I wasn't doing the work because of fear of failure, fear that I didn't know what I was doing, fear that my artwork wasn't good enough. And these are things that every single comic I still struggle with. But it was the little things that got me to start making comics. And it's going to probably be the little things that keep you going as well. Just the little idea of seeing your idea come to life. Your characters moving, your characters emoting, your characters telling their story or going through whatever they're going through. It's the idea that someone somewhere is going to read your story and they're going to love it. They're going to like it. They're going to want more of it. And sometimes it's those things that keep you going forward. And with that forward momentum, I think we underestimate exactly how much we can get done. I see it all the time where we overestimate how much we can get done in a short amount of time, but we underestimate how much we can get done in a longer, stretched out amount of time. What do I mean by this? I've seen a lot of YouTube videos or a lot of people speak to these competitions that come up. Now, I have not participated in any webtoon or comic or manga competitions, but the idea of it seems interesting. The basic concept is that there's a competition with a deadline, and it has to be the manga, usually it's a silent manga thing, and it has to be between 8 to 16 pages or maybe even 24 pages. And every single time you see these artists, they're like, I only have 6 weeks to make this comic or make this manga. And every single time, sometimes, yeah, they meet their deadline, but it's never as they want it to be. And I feel like maybe it's because they have overestimated their abilities. Those people who have a set schedule making a manga in 1 week or making a comic in 1 month where they have to ship, I think that we forget that some of those artists have a singular function in that manga or a singular function in that comic. It's a team of people. Whereas when we are working by ourselves, we assume that we can do it all fairly easily, fairly quickly. But we just can't. My personal example with this, I wasn't making a comic for a competition. I was making a one-shot for myself. And it was a 55 to 56 page comic. This is Doppel. Links to Global Comics in the description below if you want to give it a read. But I thought this comic was only going to take me 3, maybe 6 months to complete from start to publish. And that comic took me nearly a year. And that's not considering that I had started pre-production before I officially started counting how long the comic was going to take me. And while I was making that comic, I was kind of beating myself up because as the days rolled by, as the weeks rolled by, as the months rolled by, and as a year started to approach, I was like, I'm a failure because I said this was going to be done months ago and it's not nowhere close to being done. And what's wrong with me? Why can't I move faster? But what I wasn't paying attention to and what I should have been paying attention to is that I was showing up every single day. I was showing up, drawing a panel, inking a panel, coloring a panel, adding the details, adding the bubbles, adding the words, compiling the pages every single day for a year straight. I showed up to make something. And not a lot of people can say that they've done it. Like, you going from having an idea for a comic and you actually making the comic and completing it, good or bad, not a lot of people can say that they're doing it or have done it. Showing up every single day, it literally changed everything. And even in the beginning, when I kept constantly telling myself, this was long before I made Doppel. This was before I made my webtoon comics, also links in the description if you want to check them out. this is even before I made my Instagram comics. But before I made my Instagram comics, I wanted to make comics, but I didn't know where to start. I wanted to tell stories, but I didn't know where to start. And I constantly kept saying, I want to make comics, or I'm an aspiring comic artist. But I wasn't doing anything about it. I was still like doing my anatomy studies and rotating boxes and trying to become a better artist, because I thought that there needed to be some big sign that said, Chris, you're ready to make comics. But the sign never came. And if you're waiting to make comics, maybe this is your sign. Hey, start making your comic. What actually allowed me to start making comics was allowing myself to make shitty comics. And I've told this story a couple times on previous podcasts, but for the quick and dirty of it is I decided that these little comics in my sketchbook, nobody needed to see them. Nobody needed to know about them. I just wanted to put panels on a page and have some little mud people. I mean, these people were not even well formed. They were not characters. They were just blobs that looked like a person. Well, kinda. But I allowed myself to experiment with shitty comics. I allowed myself to just put panels together to see what I could do on my own. And I did like 20 or 30 of these things. Just crap, complete crap. But somewhere along the way of consistently making a new one, even as badly as it was, I started to think to myself, maybe I can do this. And then that shitty comic led to the first real comic that I made as an adult, which was a short comic. It was an Instagram comic that was basically stories of me and my wife and some of the things. My wife is an entire character, and I wanted to share some of the jokes or things or interactions that we have in comic form, and I used those comics to kind of practice the idea of a comic. Like, okay, it's only like 4 to 8 panels or 4 to 10 panels. It's very short. There's a joke, there's a point, a beginning, middle, end, very quick. But even those comics, as simple as they were, took me a couple weeks just to make 1 or 2. And then getting enough confidence from that, like I said, still just showing up to make a comic. Those comics gave me the ability or the confidence I needed to make a webtoon, which is a lot longer. And even that was a process. That took 3 to 4 months. And so on and so forth, rinse and repeat. And what I'm saying is that getting over the fear of making comics only happened once I started actually making them. And once I started making them, that gave me the confidence to call myself a comic artist. What I'm learning is that back before I started, I felt that comic artist wasn't a title that I could claim because I wasn't a professional. Hell, sometimes I felt like artist wasn't a title that I could claim because I wasn't a professional. But the truth of the matter is, if you make comics, regardless of whether they ever get published, they ever get shown online, they ever get seen by anyone, if you are making sequential art, then you're a comic artist. So that's your title. Enjoy it. Like it's what you do. The comic artist title doesn't belong just to professionals. It belongs to anyone who makes comics. Anyone who's telling a story with art. And that leads me into the next part. which is the importance of story. I created this channel because, one, I absolutely love everything to do with comics and manga. I've always loved it. And even when I was a kid, like, I loved it and I made my own. And it was just such a freeing experience to tell stories with pictures and art and words. It was a beautiful thing. But the younger me needed someone to kind of show the way. Sometimes, or at least when I was growing up, all of these professionals existed, the comic artists, the animation artists, the 3D artists, the video game creators. All of these positions exist, but you never really see like the in-between. You didn't get to see the build-up. Sometimes you would get a behind-the-scenes footage, or you'd get an art book, or something that would kind of allude to what was happening behind the scene, but there was never really a clear path. And so you think, okay, if I go to school, maybe they'll show me the path. But the older I get, the more I learn that the path is many. There's many ways to make comics. There's many ways to make art. There's no one correct way. There's just some ways that work better than other ways. And if I'm being too philosophical, my apologies, but that's kind of like my thing. I think a lot about these things. And getting back to the importance of story is that when I was a kid, stories, comics, manga, books, all of these stories inspired me and showed me a world of magic and wonder and beautiful things. I mean, I also saw some ugly things, but story is super powerful. All those stories that I've read as a kid, all the stories that I read today are constantly changing me and making me grow as a person. Stories have the ability to change a person. They have the ability to change your mind. They have the ability, a good story can make you change how you look at a person. A good story can make you change how you look at the world. A good story can make you change how you look at yourself. Stories can inspire you to create something. Stories can inspire you to destroy something. Stories can make you feel like you're not alone, that someone else has your exact situation. Yeah, it might be a fantastical version, but someone else has shared their story, and now you can relate to their story because you had a similar experience. A story can save a life. A story can ruin a life. Stories are powerful. And I know that all of us have a story to tell. And I feel like the reason I want this channel to exist is to get people who are into comics, into making manga, to tell their story. Whatever that story is. It doesn't have to be a serious story. It doesn't have to be a life-altering story. A story has the power to move a person, and it can be for happiness, to help them escape from whatever they're running from in their life. It could be to fill a void that they didn't know was there. Like, sometimes you can read a story and you didn't even know that you needed to read it until after you've experienced it. And then you're like, oh, that story, something has changed in me, but I don't know what. And you probably have a story to tell. You probably have a story to share. I know I do. And if I can convince you to share your story, if I can convince you to write your story, to draw your story, whether it is about yourself or it is about your characters and their experiences, whatever it is, it should be out there, because you never know how your story can affect someone across the world, especially in today's day and age. So that's why this channel exists. So if you like my videos, if you subscribe to the channel, if you leave comments, I appreciate it so much. I love having this conversation with you guys, and I want to know your thoughts about consistency, your thoughts about your stories that you want to tell. And I want to keep the conversation of making comics going. There's an alternate perspective around comics where people are wondering if comics are dying. And for me, the answer is no. Comics are well and alive, and as long as people are still making comics and manga, then the form will continue to live on. And I think we should carry forward our stories to add to that conversation, to keep comics alive. Now, for the future of the channel, going into working on getting to the second year of Panels in Progress, I have a lot of ideas. This channel is for me, it is for you, it is for anyone who loves comics, who loves manga, who loves making them specifically. And I have so many ideas, and I would love to know which ideas interest you, so that way I could possibly move the channel in that direction. But this channel will forever be about making comics and manga. Forever. Like, that is the number one goal of the channel. Making comics and manga and inspiring you to start making your own comics or manga. I want to do more panel deep dives where I take comics and manga that I have read that have said something to me and share it with you guys and see like what we can learn together. I'm hoping that the panel deep dives teach you more about how to look at a comic and pull out information to make our own comics better. I want to do more first chapter reviews where I am looking for that inciting incident and trying to see like what was it about this first chapter, this first volume that made me want to keep reading. What can we learn from that? The third thing I want to do is detailed studies of specific writers or specific artists. One specific artist obviously is Daniel Warren Johnson that I want to do. I would love to do one for Robert Kirkman and James Tynion. If you guys have other suggestions for even better writers or other artists, let me know in the comment section below, because I'm always looking for something to inspire me to create even better than what I've seen. And since I am always making a comic in the process of something, that will be something that will continue to be on the channel, which is the behind the scenes of how I make a comic. Whether it's a short story, a short scene, or a one-shot idea. I want to take you guys along with me on the journey because I'm still learning and figuring it all out myself. And there's something to be said about just showing the process. One of my favorite videos on YouTube is when a comic artist or a manga artist is drawing or creating and they are sharing their details of why they make the decisions they make, what they think works for a certain page or panel or character. Like, all that is so important to crafting a comic and manga. So I hope that through my own process, someone else can learn from my either discoveries or my mistakes. Another idea is I have a large stack of how to draw manga, how to draw comics, how to draw webtoons, and I kind of want to rank these books as far as read them for what they are and see, like, is this a beginner friendly book or is this a more advanced book, and try to figure out, are these books useful in today's day and age to making comics and manga. So let me know if you're interested in that series. I've got several books that I'm waiting to dive into. And then the last idea is a Scott McCloud deep dive series where I'm going maybe a chapter or two at a time through his How to Make Comics or Understanding Comics books and really getting into the nitty-gritty of the details of that information. Those books are textbooks, they are classic, they have a lot of information that is still valid to this day, and I want to revisit them, and maybe you want to revisit them or see them for the first time as well. But yeah, I would love to know your feedback on all of those ideas, which idea has your interest piqued the most, so that way this channel is for comic making, manga making, and just making a story as good as it can be before you put it out into the world. So as long as you guys are engaged with the content, it will always come out. I am having so much fun making these videos. I am loving being a part of the community, and I look forward to another year making progress with you guys. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and I will catch you next time. Thank you.